I had an affair with a guy who worked on the crew there, and I came out to visit him. He taught in air.
On the hit show One Day at a Time, they were the picture of friendship, a mother and daughter navigating life together, their on-screen chemistry undeniable. For millions of viewers, Ann Romano and her daughters weren't just characters on a sitcom. They were the heart of a show that broke new ground. It was a series that dared to put a divorced, independent woman at the center of the story, and at the helm was its fiercely dedicated star, Bonnie Franklin. But once the cameras stopped rolling, the smiles sometimes faded, and for one co-star, the on-screen friendship dissolved into a quiet, off-screen friction. This is the story of the intense behind-the-scenes conflict that created a work environment so tense, it led to a character's sudden and permanent disappearance from one of television's most beloved sitcoms. It's a story of clashing performance styles, artistic differences, and a power dynamic that just couldn't last. To really get why the conflict on set became such a big deal, you have to understand just how revolutionary One Day at a Time was. When it premiered in December 1975, TV was a different world. The show was the brainchild of producer Norman Lear, the master of socially conscious comedy, and was created by the husband and wife writing team Whitney Blake and Alan Mannings, based loosely on Blake's own life as a single mother. At the show's core was Ann Romano, played with a fiery, heartfelt intensity by Bonnie Franklin. Ann was a newly divorced woman who moved to Indianapolis with her two teenage daughters, the rebellious Julie, played by Mackenzie Phillips, and the sweet, more conventional Barbara, played by Valerie Bertinelli. This premise was audacious for its time. One Day at a Time was only the second American sitcom to feature a divorced mom in a leading role, but it was the first to really dive headfirst into the messy, complicated realities of that life. Bonnie. Franklin wasn't just the star, she was the show's anchor. A seasoned theater actress with a Tony nomination to her name, Franklin brought a level of professionalism that elevated the entire production. She was fiercely protective of the show's integrity. Early in the first season, she grew so unhappy with the script's leaning into silly sitcom stuff that she considered quitting after just 15 episodes. Instead, she spoke up, and her input helped reshape the show into something more grounded and meaningful. That move solidified her influence on set. It became clear that Franklin was a powerful voice in the show's direction. For her young co-stars, Valerie Bertinelli and Mackenzie Phillips, Franklin was a mentor and a second mother. Bertinelli, just 15 when the show began, called her time. On set, a masterclass in comedy and drama. Pat Harrington Jr., who played the lovable Superintendent Schneider, noted that Franklin instilled a powerful work ethic in her on-screen daughters. This maternal, protective, yet demanding presence was the glue that held the show together, making its on-screen family feel so real to millions and turning the series into a ratings powerhouse. By its second season, One Day at a Time was a certified hit. The producers, wanting to expand Ann Romano's world, decided to introduce a new character, a neighbor who could be both a confidant and a comedic foil. They needed an actress who could hold her own with the formidable Bonnie Franklin. They found that person in Mary Louise Wilson. Wilson wasn't your typical sitcom actress. She was a titan of the New York stage, a celebrated performer with a long and respected career. Having been on and off Broadway since 1962, she was a highly respected Tony-nominated actress known for her sharp, sophisticated comedic timing. In her memoir, My First 100 Years in Show Business, Wilson recalled accepting the role of Ginny Roblicki based on producer Norman Lear's incredible track record. She was hired to play Ann's new best friend, a feisty, brassy cocktail waitress, who would bring a different energy to the show. On paper, it seemed like a perfect match. Ginny Roblicki was introduced as an outspoken and funny character, a worldly counterpoint to Ann's more grounded struggles. Her debut was strong, and the audience reacted positively. It looked like Ginny was about to become a beloved fixture on the series. But behind the scenes, a different story was playing out. The very qualities that made Mary Louise Wilson a star on Broadway, her powerful delivery and larger-than-life comedic style, started to create friction on the set. From the moment Wilson arrived, with her theatrical flair, the show's delicate chemistry was thrown off balance. Rumors began to circulate that Bonnie Franklin, the undisputed star, was not happy. Wilson's big theatrical energy was a stark contrast to the more natural dramedy style that Franklin had championed for the show. What was meant to be a supportive friendship on screen was quickly becoming a source of tension off-screen. The tension between Bonnie Franklin and Mary Louise Wilson wasn't a big, dramatic blow-up, but more of a slow burn of professional friction. What should have felt like a collaboration started to feel like a quiet rivalry. The heart of the problem was a fundamental clash of performance styles. Franklin was a perfectionist who had carefully crafted the show's blend of comedy and drama. Wilson, a creature of the stage, was trained to command an audience with a bolder comedic energy. This difference became a constant source of conflict. Whispers from the set suggested that Franklin felt upstaged by Wilson's scene-stealing instincts. For Franklin, this was about protecting the soul of the show she had fought so hard to build. This feeling of a mismatch was a two-way street. In her memoir, Wilson later shared her side of the story, describing the experience as miserable. She felt that, aside from producer Norman Lear, nobody thought I was funny. For a celebrated comedic actress, that feeling was crushing. The laughter she was used to in the theater was absent on set, replaced by what she memorably described as the glassy stare of Bonnie Franklin. To make matters worse, Wilson hated the direction the writers were taking her character. The sitcom formula often required characters to face a serious moral dilemma, and the one created for Ginny involved an illegitimate child. Wilson found the storyline overly sentimental, and, in her words, the scenes made my bowels shrink. For an actress who valued sharp comedy, it was an artistic compromise she found unbearable. On set, the atmosphere grew thick with unspoken conflict. Franklin's professionalism kept things from boiling over publicly, but insiders admitted the vibe was undeniable. While Franklin was known for mentoring her younger co-stars, her relationship with Wilson was cold and distant. It became clear that the set of One Day at a Time just wasn't big enough for both of them. The conflict had reached its boiling point. A celebrated stage actress felt isolated and artistically compromised, while the show's star felt her vision was under threat. Something had to give. Before we get to the final confrontation that led to a character's sudden erasure from television history, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. After just 14 episodes of simmering tension, Mary Louise Wilson had reached her limit. The work environment was miserable. She felt creatively stifled, and she saw no path forward where she felt so unwelcome. The dream job on a hit Norman Lear show had become a nightmare. She decided she couldn't continue. Wilson took her complaints straight to the top, requesting a meeting with Norman Lear himself. She told him everything, her unhappiness on set, her feeling that her comedic talents were being ignored, and her deep discomfort with the storylines. Most importantly, she conveyed the impossible working dynamic with the show's star. Wilson made it clear she wanted to leave the show. Lear, known for his empathy with actors, could see the situation was beyond repair. It wasn't about one person being right and the other wrong. It was a total failure of professional chemistry. He understood Wilson's position and agreed to release her from her contract. But Wilson's request was only half of the story. According to numerous reports and insider accounts, Bonnie Franklin had also made her displeasure known to the producers. As the star, her opinion held immense power. While there may not have been a direct her or me ultimatum, the message was clear. The dynamic wasn't working for her either. With the show's lead unhappy and the new actress herself asking to be let go, Lear had little choice but to end the experiment. The clash had reached its inevitable conclusion. A decision was made, and it was final. Mary Louise Wilson's departure from One Day at a Time was baffling for viewers at home. At the end of Season 2, her character Ginny Roblicki was there. When Season 3 premiered, she was simply gone. There was no farewell episode or storyline to explain her exit. The character of Ginny was, for all intents and purposes, erased from the show. She was almost never mentioned again, with the minor exception of a brief appearance in a Season 5 clip show. This silent, near-total erasure was perhaps the most telling sign of how deep the friction ran. The production and its star wanted to move on so completely that they were willing to create a glaring continuity hole. For Bonnie Franklin, the show went on without a hitch. With Wilson gone, the on-set dynamic returned to normal. The series continued its successful run for 7 more seasons, cementing its place in television history and Franklin's status as a beloved icon. Her power on set was now absolute, a fact that had been clearly, if quietly, demonstrated. For Mary Louise Wilson, leaving the show was liberating. She returned to her true home, the theater. Free from the sitcom formula and on-set tension, her career flourished. Decades later, she would win a Tony Award for her role in the musical Grey Gardens and continue to be one of the most respected actresses on the American stage. She also wrote her dishiesta and funniest memoir, My First 100 Years in Show Business, finally sharing her side of the frustrating, tumultuous time she spent in television. The conflict became a cautionary tale about the high-pressure environment of a hit TV show. While Franklin's legacy is largely defined by her groundbreaking role as Anne Romano and her mentorship of her younger castmates, the story reveals a more complex side to her personality, a fierce protector of her show who was unwilling to share. The spotlight. In the end, the story of Bonnie Franklin and Mary Louise Wilson is a classic Hollywood clash of artistic styles. On one side was the star of a hit show, a perfectionist who had fought to shape its identity. On the other was a celebrated stage actress with a bold, commanding style who found herself in a world that didn't appreciate her specific gifts. Their on-screen friendship was a fiction that crumbled behind the scenes, leading to Wilson's miserable 14-episode run and her subsequent erasure from the show. The situation resolved when Wilson asked to leave, a request that aligned with Franklin's own unhappiness with the on-set dynamic. Wilson walked away from a bad situation and found even greater success on her own terms, returning to the stage where she was truly valued. One Day at a Time continued its celebrated run, but it left behind the ghost of a character who vanished. Without a word, a silent testament to one of the most fascinating rivalries in sitcom history. What do you think? Was this a case of an artist who simply couldn't fit into the rigid sitcom machine, or was it a star protecting her territory? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.